Hello, Sunpedal Groovy here, and today I'm taking a step away from some popper content to tell you about the first commander deck that I ever really built, Xenagos. So this is the first commander that really kind of clicked with me. See, when I was getting into the format, the first pre-constructed decks had recently come out, and I didn't get that first round of them, but I did build a Ghave Guru of Spores deck, and but I don't even think I had the title commander card. I think I proxied it and just threw together a bunch of saprolings that I had, and um, it was not very good. Around that time as well, I was going to F&M's playing standard decks that were borrowed or whatever pile of junk that my friends had, and I got a Glissa the Trader F&M promo, um, and I built a deck around Glissa with the whatever artifacts that me and my friend happened to have in our collection. Um, it was basically just a pile of bulk. I don't even know how it won. It had like um, removal spells and um, like 5/4 beaters in it. I don't know how it even won or if it did. I did then build a Reaper King deck that a friend helped me kind of synergize a little bit more, but it was not fun for opponents and it was not particularly fun for me. So that served its purpose for a while, and then um, when Theros came out, I was actually able to, well, not Theros, one of the Theros sets. I was able to open what was called the God Pack, which had all of the Theros gods in it, including Xenagos. And around that time, also, I had borrowed a standard deck from somebody that um, used Xenagos and some other kind of large red-green beaters at the time to, and I kind of liked that. So I set Xenagos aside and I said, hey, I'm going to start actually purposely trying to acquire cards for this, mostly through trading. Um, and so eventually I did get the deck built, and it was the first deck that actually felt like it was mine. Now, uh, this deck, my goal is for it to be as powerful as I can make it in the bracket 4 space with kind of an explosive, proactive game plan. But in reality, it probably hits in kind of a high 3 most of the time because I don't. It does lack cards like Ancient Tomb and Chrome Mox, um, which I I like to play with things that I own. If my group was really into, if I had a group that was really into that kind of definitely bracket 4 space, then I could potentially proxy. But we'll talk about that in a moment. So, what the core game plan is to ramp and then cast Xenagos, and then immediately start pressuring our opponents. Every creature uh, that I cast ends up being a must answer threat. We're not going wide. This is a very tall deck. Most of the time, we're going to have maybe 3 creatures on the board: a mana creature, or mana and or card advantage creature, Xenagos, who's probably not a creature because I probably don't have devotion, uh, and a threat that has to be answered. Let's take this opportunity to actually talk about what Xenagos does. So he is a creature enchantment, a legendary enchantment creature that is indestructible as long as your devotion to red and green is at least is less than 7. Xenagos is not a creature. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature you control gains haste and gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is that creature's power. So this plays into the plan where we cast a big creature and then are immediately able to attack with it, and it gets even bigger. So if we go through our categories, these categories are loosely come from the command zone deck building template, which I can link below. But in the ramp category, we I lean towards a ramp that kind of gives me an instant rebate, so to speak, like Arcane Signet. I can tap for mana when I after I play it, or Carpet of Flowers, depending on what my opponents are playing, can give me mana back that turn, or Ruby Daring Tracker, who has haste. So that allows me to accelerate without losing a lot of tempo. So the threats are going to be in this category that I have marked plan. This is just because the plan in this deck is to beat down with some massive threats. So there are some big ones. One that particular to mention is where did he go? Malignus, right here. So this is like a staple of all Xenagos decks. You kind of have to, because he says that his power and toughness are equal to half the highest life total among your opponents, rounded up. And also he says damage that would be dealt by Malignus can't be prevented. But the first paragraph is what really matters, because once you double his toughness, his power and toughness, it is equal to the life total of the highest life total of your opponents, which is enough to kill anyone who doesn't have any blockers. So if they don't have any blockers, then you can just delete them from the game. Other things, another big one is a Tarka World Render here. This is a dragon, and when it attacks, you double its power to 12, and it has double strike, so you end up dealing 24 to your opponents. There's things, some of the lower cost things, like at 5, because if you were able to cast Xenagos, then you should be able to cast something like Quartzwood Crasher, or Malignus, or let's see, or Ilharg. Yeah, here's or Ilharg, who then can potentially put in another big beater until end of turn. So those are the threats. Let's move over to card advantage. Let's see. A lot of our card advantage is kind of tied to having creatures. Some of the big things, there is something like Sylvan Library, which is just good on its own, but or Jessica's Will, which is just good on its own. But a lot of this stuff is um, dependent on having creatures, like up the Beanstalk or Beast Whisperer. You have to cast creatures. Um, I mean, Regal Behemoth is a creature, especially something like Rishkar's Expertise is a good card. Like it's powerful, um, but if you get your big creature removed in response to Rishkar's Expertise, then you are real sad. There's also interaction. So we have two kind of categories: mass disruption and targeted disruption. Um, and this is a little light, as according to that deck dueling template that I mentioned, but that's mostly because my plan. I figure I want to just be beating down mostly, and I mean you have to have some interaction, but it is a little lower than maybe recommended. So in targeted, there's Beast Within, which you can pry out of my cold dead hands. It may not be the best removal spell, but I like it. Um, Here's like Bolt Bend, which does a good deflecting SWAT impersonation, which we'll talk about bringing deflected SWAT in for bracket 4 space. But yeah, and then so for mass disruption, and Anzrag's Rampage really just seems like it's made for this deck, because it's essentially a Vandal Blast, destroys all artifacts you don't control, which is probably going to be quite a bit, especially if you're in a bracket 4 space. They're going to have their Chrome Moxes and such. And even if you're not in a bracket 4 space, if you're in a bracket 3 space, then they're going to have Soul Rings, they're going to have Arcane Signets. There's going to be artifacts. And so then you look at the top, or you exile the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of artifacts that were put in the graveyards this turn, and put a creature that was exiled This way, onto the battlefield, it gains haste. Return it to your hand. So at the beginning of your next end step. So this kind of just digs deep in to find something hopefully huge to then be doubled by Xenagos, and your opponents are set back. Chandra's Ignition has kind of a similar problem to what I mentioned about Rishkar's expertise, but it can just end the game. And here is a card that from the very beginning I kind of wanted to be in the deck, but I didn't have a copy of Vorinclex Voice of Hunger. This is a rude card, and so it was a game changer, and I think it was ungame changered. But I was able to I found a copy for the Phyrexian language copy is not very expensive, so I got one recently. And this is something that would be kind of expected in the bracket 4 space, but um, some of your bracket 3 opponents may be a little salty about, because it is very rude. So if I was in a pod that was or in a kind of a play group that didn't appreciate that, then I would consider maybe changing that out for something else. So that is the kind of interactions. So this deck, like I said, can come really hard when it comes, and can do that pretty quickly. Every creature that I cast hopefully is a serious threat that has to be dealt with. So you do have to consider that. You have to know that, like, okay, when I play this Malignus down, they're not just going to be like, okay, well, I guess I lose. Like, you need to have um, a plan, like a backup plan. Like, maybe that's not the scariest thing in your hand, uh, or I don't know what else is in your hand that's scarier than that. Maybe Old Gnawbone, but um, or it's like maybe you already have up the beanstalk out so that it's going to be replaced, and maybe you draw another threat. But you got to know that they're gonna interact with you. Um, it's explosive, proactive, and it pressures life totals fast. Uh, Not a whole lot of setup. You just gotta get Xenagos and then start casting big guys. Um, the card draw is, as I kind of mentioned, is dependent on a lot on creatures, and so is the kind of mana, a lot of the mana development. So it can struggle if those get disrupted, and then you may and you don't have something like Sylvan Library out, then you may find yourself uh, struggling to kind of contribute in any meaningful way. Um, but because it relies heavily on sticking a creature and then coming in with and doubling it with Xenagos and coming in. So if I wanted to play this in bracket 4, as I kind of mentioned, uh, I would definitely have an Ancient Tomb. I would definitely have a Chrome Mox, and I would proxy these. But like I said, I do prefer to play with the cards that I own. Um, the deflecting swat's coming in for the bolt bin's coming out, the deflecting swat's coming in, because that's just a better version of that. One question I have is this does this deck have the cradle count, so to speak, to make cradle kind of worth it? But my feeling is that, cradle's probably just so ridiculously busted that it will be fine. But if I did proxy that in, then it could mean that I kind of tweak my ramp numbers a little bit to have a few more mana dorks. And so that would push it fully into bracket 4. We'd clean up the mana base, we'd get lower to the ground, and that would move our turn that we are playing Xenagos earlier, and then the turn that we're coming in with a big beater earlier. So we'd go from coming in on like maybe the 5th or 6th turn to coming in on like the 4th or 5th turn with something that must be answered, or sooner. Who knows? So yeah. So that you're in your ideal hand, you would have, probably 2 or 3 lands. You would have some kind of ramp. You would like to see some kind of card advantage, like up the beanstalk in that opening hand, and you really want to see a big beater, something that cost, 5 or 6. Um, the 7 cost may not be able to cast directly after Xenagos. If it's a 5 or 6, then you will probably be able to make your land drop and then go ahead and come in. So then you just ramp, you play out whatever card advantage spell that you have, and then cast Xenagos as soon as you can. You may have to wait till you probably cast Xenagos one turn, and the next turn you are coming in. So one thing about Xenagos, one weakness that it has is it's really strong on the battlefield. It has indestructible. Most of the time, it's not a creature, so you have to have very kind of specific ways to remove it. But on the stack, it does. It is easier to remove. So that's why I include things like Domri Anarch of Bolus, who can make it uncomfortable, uncounterable. And kind of in and out of the list, I've had Spellbreaker Behemoth, which I think right now, since I'm trying to make it as fast as I can, I felt like it was a little slow, but this is one of the cards that was in the original kind of list. So, because that is kind of a weakness that we have. So this is still one of my favorite decks to play, and because it's the very first one that I really built myself. So let me know what you would change. Let me know what you would put down in the comments what you would bring in, what game changers you would bring in, what cards you would take out for said game changers, and until next time.